Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm gonna make some sourdough bread. I've wanted to do this video for a while, but I just feel like I wasn't really perfect at it. So I don't know, I guess I didn't want to show you my sourdough bread unless it was like absolutely wonderful. But in time that I've been making sourdough bread since last May when I started my sourdough start, it's definitely been a learning curve and things have been up and down, and you know what, I just figured that no two loaves of sourdough bread are the same. So do what works for me and I'll share with you what does work for me, and my family loves it and I love to make it now. And I'm starting to get comfortable, so I figured I would share how I make it. I feel like too that the process of sourdough bread is a nice long fermenting process, and I think a lot of people have just gotten away from that and everybody wants kind of everything's immediately as usual. And so they feel like something that's more quick bread and using a lot of yeast in their breads, and they always think that's so much better. But it worked for many hundreds of years of how we slowly ferment our bread, and actually in the long run it's better for you. So learning the sourdough process has been really great. And so I'll introduce you to my sourdough start, because I finally have done very well with this. She's just starting to fall. This is Florence. Florence is my sourdough start. I started her May 22nd of last year. And like I said, I did good for a while and I thought it was a failure and I thought I killed her, but I didn't. You know, sourdough starter is pretty forgiving, and I finally gotten to a comfortable point that I'm really happy with it. So let's see if you can see her. She has grown. So I put a band on here. So this is when I fed her. I fed her last night before I went to bed. So I know there's a lot of controversy out there about, you know, it has to rise within 3 to 6 hours for it to be bread worthy and stuff. And I do feel like that's a misconception. That, I mean, it is true, but it's also not true for everyone. You know, I'm in a very cold climate, so it tends to not rise as much. If I put it in a warm area, very warm, then it does grow faster. But I don't always want to rely on something like that in case we didn't have electricity or something. I still want to be able to make bread and not have to rely on conventional things. So I've learned to just let her do her thing, and the learning curve has been great. Learning the consistency, I think that's the biggest part, is mixing the flour in so it's almost as thick as possible, but still being mixed is the key. So I fed her last night and she was here. I mark her with a hair tie. And she is right at the top. She actually just started to fall in the past couple hours, so I really need to start doing this now. She'll be bread worthy, so she'll rise when you feed her, and she'll be bread worthy when she starts to fall. So it's time. So I definitely use a scale when I make my bread, because it's more accurate when you weigh it. And I will write down in the description the recipe that I use. I use a same-day sourdough bread recipe because I don't have 3 days or more to do it. I do try to do it in the same day, but it takes me approximately, you know, within 7 or 8 hours. But I always want to make sure that I write my recipes down, because you never know. So I zero my scale out, and we've got 150 grams of active starter. Come on, Florence. Look at her go. She is ready to be used, that's for sure. If you're a little over, that's fine. I usually tend to go a little bit over anyways. So we have 300 grams of warm water. I can use tap water because I have well water, but definitely nothing chlorinated if you can help it. So I'm going to stir this together and to get this stirred up. And then I'm going to measure out my flour. I measured out 500 grams of bread flour, and I'm going to mix it into my mixture. I tend to use my hands when making bread too, so I've washed my hands. I do like this little scraper. I got this online somewhere. It came as a kit, but I definitely am a hand user. So in the beginning it's going to look a little scrappy, but I'm going to let this sit to let the water absorb into the flour so they can mix together, and then we'll add the salt, and then we'll do what's called stretch and folds for a couple of hours. I'll show you how I do that when we get to that point. So this is what it looks like after it's all mixed. It's pretty shaggy, and then I'm just going to set on my counter here, put a warm a tea towel that has some warm damp water on it. Ta-da! So we're going to let this rest for about an hour. I usually 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll add the salt, and then we'll start our stretch and folds. Okay, so it's been about 45 minutes, and I'm going to add my salt. I already weighed it. It's 10 grams of salt. I'm going to kind of sprinkle it around, and I'm going to hand mix this. So at this point, we're going to start our stretch and folds. So really what you're going to do is kind of stretch one corner, one side out. So you're pulling it far enough so it doesn't start tearing, and you're going to fold it to the middle. And I just kind of turn and release it from the sides of the bowl, and then I do it again. Sometimes I got to use my other hand. And at this point it's going to be really easy to do your stretch and folds. I'm going to do this over 2 hours. So I might do it every 20 minutes, I might do it every 30. It's just kind of whenever I look at the clock. And then I stretch it and I fold it. Now some people, they can stretch theirs way far out. Some people can't. I'm just telling you, this is just what works for me. I do it, 4 times. And at this point you can see it's still sticking to the bottom of the bowl. But that's okay, because it's really just at the beginning. Just enough, and then I'm going to cover it up. And I'm going to wait another 20 minutes or half an hour and do this over 2 hours. And here is my last stretch and fold. It's very smooth, it's pretty tight. I'm sure some people will say that I'm not stretching far enough, long enough. Guess what? This seems to work for me. My sourdough loaves may look different than other people's loaves, but the way that I have been doing it, I'm enjoying the loaves. They taste great. I just love everything about it. So it seems to work for me. So here she is. So I have to put her in a warm place for 2 hours to do the warm fermentation process. And I live in upstate New York. It's cold out. I have my heat on, yes, but it's not humid. It's not super warm. So what I did was I popped my oven on and I turned my oven light on. Now I'll just let my oven warm up for a minute, and not even a minute, like 30 seconds, turn it off. I put my bread in the oven and just let it stay warm. I do have a little note on my oven that says do not turn oven on. So that way if my son wants to make a pizza or something, he knows there's something in it and it won't like burn my towel up. I don't want to set the house on fire either. So I'm gonna do that and we'll see you in 2 hours. So it's been 2 hours and here is our warm fermentation. She's looking good. So I'm gonna put her down on a little floured surface. And I'm gonna shape it. I think this is the hardest part, getting out of the bowl. I put a little flour in my hand so I can work it. I'm going to fold it over, and I'm just going to roll her up. I'll shape her and put her in my banneton basket. Shape her till she's nice and pretty and smooth. There we go. I put flour in the bottom of my banneton basket. Just gonna cover her up, and now I'm gonna put her in the fridge for another 2 hours. Okay, so it's been 2 hours. So I wanna tell you what I did first. I put my Dutch oven in the oven, and then I turned the oven on to 450 degrees and let the Dutch oven preheat in the oven. So you want that slow process. And once it reached the 450 degree temperature, I let it sit for 20 or 30 minutes so the whole Dutch oven gets warm. All right, so you're ready to sear now. Now let me put you down here. And here she is. This is cold proof. This is 2 hours in the refrigerator. So I have my, you can see this. This is my silicone bread lifter that I got for Christmas. I love these. You can use this, or you can just use parchment paper. That's fine too. So I put a little bit of flour on it just so it doesn't stick to this. These are really nice, but I do have to say they do have a tendency of getting a little crispier. And she's pretty cold, so she's kind of sticky to my banneton basket. I just put her in the center. Ooh, look at her. Now I'm gonna score it, because as it bakes, it has to have somewhere to go, so I kind of open it up a little bit. I don't do anything fancy. You can put designs on it, you can do whatever you want. I just score it in a half moon and call it a day. All right, so here's the quick part. Take the Dutch oven out. Hot, hot, hot. Just use my bread lifter. I put it in the center. And I use 4 ice cubes, the 2 that are put together, and I kind of just tuck them underneath the bread lifter. And then real fast, put the top on, because I want that to produce steam, and that helps keep the bread a little softer. Put it in the oven, set my timer for 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes is up. I'm gonna turn the temperature down to 430 and just take the top off. Ooh, look at her. We're gonna go about 8 to 10 minutes. And she's done. Delicious. That was 8 minutes, so it just got brown on the top, and that's good enough for me. And then if you use these silicone mats, they're very, very hot. So here she is. Yow, that's hot. Yummy. So I'll let this sit for an hour before I cut it. It'll be nice and moist on the inside, and it's nice and crispy on the outside. So before I finish this video, I want to show you what I'm going to do at the end here. Let's see if I can get this in a better position real quick. So what I'm going to do with my start from this morning, I'm going to discard. I gotta make some more, because I'm gonna make some stuff for you next weekend, so I need to build my discard up. So this is my discard. So I'm using my start, and I'm gonna pour half of my start into the discard, and then I just keep my discard jar in the refrigerator because I can use it for other things. And if by chance Florence doesn't make it, she's still in my refrigerator. I can take my discard, any amount of my discard from the refrigerator, and bring it to room temperature and feed it, and then I have her back in my life again. So that's discard. That's gonna go in the fridge, and now I'm gonna feed her. I'm gonna give her a new jar because she's getting kind of gunky. So I need some more discard. So I'm gonna fully feed her. Normally I wouldn't, but I'm gonna put 3/4 cup of bread flour in here-ish. She's probably really hungry. And then I have warm water. Anything, as long as it's non-chlorinated. I don't really measure. Sorry. I just, oops, sorry. See, it's starting to get real thick in there. I make sure it's super thick to the point where it's mixed. So it's really, really hard. It's really hard to mix this. So I just add water as needed here. I think in the beginning my biggest fault was that it was not thick enough. And it's really hard to mix. And then I'm just going to transfer this to the next jar. Now normally I would let this rise. I'd let it sit overnight and let it rise overnight, and then I would put it in the refrigerator because tomorrow's Monday. It's had a chance to feed and rise, and then I just let it lay dormant in the refrigerator for the week until I use it next week. But I'm going to give her just a couple of days because I need a little bit more discard for next weekend. Just scrape the sides down. your jars get really messy, and I just change out my jars every once in a while. Make sure everything is mixed up real well. But super, super thick. Like, I swear my hand hurts after I do this. And now I'm gonna put it into a new jar. Maybe, if she's gonna wanna come out. Alright, I'm gonna scrape the rest of this out, but I'm just gonna put just a regular lid, and what I'll do is just put it on here, just so that way air can get in and it can breathe. And I will put my rubber band back on. Once I fill it up, I'll put the rubber band on the line and see how far she grows. And that's it. That's about how I make my sourdough bread. So, as always, from my coop to yours, thank you for growing with me so I can grow with you.